Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heal a Sister. Heal a Sister is a show that aims to give hope and restoration to the young woman. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing peer pressure. And to help us unpack that, we have in studio Ona Rapelang. Welcome to the studio, Ona.
Thank you.
We are talking about peer pressure. Peer pressure in the context that it is an influence that is coming from the entertainment industry, from social media. You know, pressures that are for, wealth. There's so many areas. Wealth, quick, rich schemes, get rich quick schemes. And we're talking about education, the pressures to, there's so many ways, there's so many things that happen with education. There's a lot of peer pressure that's there. And also professionally in our jobs, also as friends, and also so many other areas. I'd like for us to unpack that today. Yes. Yeah. Perhaps let's start with that. Let's just unpack the kind of peer pressures that are there.
Okay. So we can have pressures from certain courses that we end up studying, right?
Yeah.
Because you're getting certain marks at school. Your parents then inform you, therefore you can become a doctor, lawyers, engineer.
This is the educational peer pressure.
This is the educational peer pressure.
Yeah.
So that end up also in the long run affecting how you perform in these professions, right? So sometimes you may delay actually even finding jobs because you're not sure, is this the right course that I actually wanted, right? By the time you start, right, now you get into LinkedIn. That's where the social media comes in, right? Those that finished varsity first, you now see that they're CEOs, right? Now you are comparing yourself, I'm a junior. So those pressures actually also can affect the person in the long run, right? So you spoke also about social media. I think social media has amplified the comparison effect, right?
Yeah.
Starting with LinkedIn, you start comparing yourself, right? Your adequacy, your education, you start leveling yourself to that, right? And as well as Instagram, right? Instagram, you compare yourself to the 50th shot that person took, used Photoshop, used fillers, so you compare yourself to that, to a modified picture. Therefore, then you feel like your self-esteem, that affects a lot of your self-esteem, right? And the second one is when you see somebody going to Europe, this isn't going to Asia, that's where the quick gains now start coming in. You start doing unethical behaviors like selling drugs, right? And some will actually invite you, say, come see how I can do all these things. So you compromise your Christian values for outward gratification at a cost of your inward Christian development. So those are the ones that actually happen inside the social media, the peer pressures of what we see and compare a perfect illusion of a perfect life, but you don't know what happens behind the scenes. So that's what it has, the good that it does, but the bad part is what it has actually done to compare all those things.
I really like the pressures to succeed in education because, like you said, your first point, you talked about how we are taught that, you do so well in school, Ona. You are doing so well in your math, you're doing so well in your science. You should be a doctor.
Sure.
Yet the entire time you're thinking, perhaps I could be something else. This is what I want to become when I grow up. This is what I want to achieve in my life. But because this has become the standard, and this is what a lot of people are saying about you, this is what you're now groomed into, you should become a doctor. You end up becoming a horrible doctor. You don't like your job. You're a horrible doctor. Patients don't even like you.
Oh, you're good, but you're just not enjoying it.
You know what I mean? But I like to talk about the extremes.
Yes,
but that's the problem, and we don't often talk about that as peer pressure, because we also, when you don't know what you really want to study or what you want to become or what kind of career you want to get into, you might find yourself just picking from what other people are doing because they're doing something with their lives. She's an accountant. I could do that, you know, but you've not really taken time to think about what you'd really want to aspire to be. So thank you so much for talking about that. We hardly talk about.
Seriously, I think just to add on that, I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
Because I was good in accounting, that's what I passed. I never explored other avenues of actually what I might be good at. I just looked at accounting, I passed this, therefore that's what I should do, right? And then you realize later in your career, like, but now how do I navigate back, right? But then there's a lot of things. You're now a family, you now have school fees to pay to be saying, I'm going to do a second degree. So that's very, very important.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
I'm an accountant because my mother was an accountant and I thought she was doing so well.
Yes.
Alas,
Yes,
she was my mom. She was providing. You know what I mean? So, thank you so much for bringing it up. The other point that you talked about was the entertainment industry, the pressures that are coming from what we see or what we're exposed to on social media, on our Facebook, or the illusion. You know, it's a very important point that you made. And I'd like for us to talk about it on the context of the young woman. You know, there's a lot of pressure there. There's a young woman that's watching now, you know, and she can't really see that this is pressure, you know. You know, let's talk about her. What kind of pressures do you think young women are exposed to that are quite dangerous?
A certain look, right? Like what I was saying before.
Oh, yes.
You see what gets more likes. Yeah, we're all in Instagram. So therefore, if this gets likes,
It's right.
it's right, right? Then it compromises your Christian values. And there's a fight between this. I see this, it gets more like, but there are Christian values that I have to abide in. So how do I balance these two? And I think that's when I like messages to young people, and Ellen G. White says, do not be squeezed into the world's mold, right? But be careful in what you see, in what you read, in what you hear, that you avoid anything that suggests impure thoughts, right?
That's
now
true.
you're like, okay, then what do I do? And it's beautiful when you look at Philippians 4:8, right? Whatever, finally, sisters, right? Whatever is true, what is truth, whatever is noble, whatever is pure, whatever is righteous, whatever is worth of praiseworthy. Think about this thing, meditate upon these things. So you need to fight. It's all the thoughts and the mind. It has to be fighting the mind. Well, this is what I see. That's right. But what does my Christian value say about certain things?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's you know, it almost seems like we're not liberated, you know, spiritually, or as Christians, we're not liberated. We don't know, we can't identify, we're struggling with identifying who we really are, you know. You know, speaking of Ellen G. White, I'd like for us to now talk about, you know, the societal pressures, or the pressures that we find in our community, also within our church, and how we can curb them.
I think the pressures in our church's marriage, it comes, you know, the question, when are you getting married? It's from a good place that they're asking, right? But others may rush into marriages that they are mated but not matched, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And Letters to Young Lovers actually speaks about that. It warns against that, saying that marry of this marriage that are impulsive. I'm marrying because I have to marry. The age is going. Selfishly planned, end up in miserable failures. Something that could have been avoided. So I think that question, it comes from a good place, but it should be careful on how we can actually mold it. And it's looking for a right partner. Somebody might say, then what's a right mate? How do I know that this person is a right mate for me, right? And it goes back to reading the books. We have a lot of materials, and Letters to Young Lovers is beautiful in illustrating a lot of this. It's very practical illustrations, right? That can say, okay, this is what you should look for a partner. I think the ones that I liked was this cultural thing where we usually, a boy child is supposed to do this, a girl child is supposed to do it breaks down that norm. Like, no. Both men and women are responsible for home keeping. They are responsible for household duties. A boy should know how to make the bed and the room, tidy the room, wash dishes, cook. And on top of that, they're like, okay, fine. So this is not mainly in our society. And she says, no, actually, you'll be happier. You'll be happy and useful. So those are the outlooks we should be looking at it, look at the right mate. And I think the beautiful one that I liked was like, looks for somebody who will grow you spiritually. Spiritual growth is most important. I think that's the first one, you know, who will go shoulder to shoulder with you and actually elevate you.
Marriage. Marriage. That's a good example. I think the other example is also, you know, being married. After getting married is, when are you having a child? You know, when are you having a child? I think that's also a question that I know even a lot of people within my circles are worried about. You know, it comes from a good place sometimes. You know, you're just asking a friend, oh, when are we having children? You know, but sometimes we don't know what it does to the other person. You know, there's so many reasons why people are not deciding to have children when they want to have children, or if they want to have children. You understand? It's a quite sensitive topic, but I know that because there's marriage, you know, this is good. Marriage is good. We embrace marriage in our community, but we also like to extend, you know, now when are we having the kids? When is this happening? When is that happening? And, you know, there's so many other areas also within our ministry, or rather within our church, where it's also about ministry, you know, there's so much pressure to get things right almost immediately, or you are pushed into a certain ministry that you don't even think you can flourish or you have the talents for, you know, And I like when you talk about homemaking. I'm sure a lot of sisters are watching and going, amen.
Exactly. But let me talk for the males. Because I feel like just when all the ladies are saying yes. It's beautiful advice. It's also for the male to consider. It says, are you marrying a woman who is an economist, right? Who's not going to finish her earnings and come after your earnings to gratify her own desires, you know. So as well as them, they, you know, how women always say our money and all those things, you need to look into those things as well, you know.
Yeah, that's true. You're speaking for the sister, them the brother. I was about to celebrate.
Yes.
All right. That is great. So now we spoke about, you know, we had narrowed it down to our community, but what other aspects of peer pressure do we have in our grander society, especially for married couples?
I think the next one is, it's like there's a sequence of events. You get married, straight after marriage, kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's expected that after marriage, you get kids. And some of the time, you know, maybe to your grandparents, they have a little society there that everybody's talking about. You know, my grandchild did this last week.
Oh my gosh.
Then they come back to you and start pressurizing you. When are you guys having kids? And this may bring friction within the married couple, right? I think also friends, like what you said earlier on, when are you joining the club, right? And this may affect actually also still the married couple, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who stay with these kids, who bring up these kids after you have them maybe for a few days or whatever. So that might also affect their marriage. And I think others, that question sometimes is a bit sensitive, because others have medical conditions that they can openly disclose and say, this is one. You can't disclose all that to everybody.
Yeah.
So, yes.
You know, I think that there's also a struggle to strike a balance to what can we really celebrate and what can we not celebrate in terms of the pressures that are around. You know, can I talk about my children so proudly even when someone else doesn't have children? Can I talk about my marriage? And you know, that's a completely different topic. That's a completely different topic that we can save for another time. As we continue to talk about peer pressure, we are going to take a short break, Ona, and when we come back, we will continue with these social ills. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Heal a Sister. We're still talking about peer pressure, and here with me we still have Ona Lena Rapelang. Welcome back, Ona.
Thank you.
Yes, we're talking about the social ill of peer pressure, and you know, I just cringe when we talk about. We spoke about a lot of things that you know, people find themselves in, and things that have actually distorted character. It was just, you know, they've just created something else in our lives. And we've also spoken about what the Bible says, you know, and now perhaps now let's look at how this can be positive. Is there such a thing as a healthy peer pressure?
Absolutely. I think it lies mostly also in the friends that we associate with. Right?
Friendship.
Yes, friendship. We can take from the Bible again, David and Jonathan. There was a beautiful friendship. It's a beautiful friendship that even after death, David was willing to say, I'll still take care of your child.
Ah, yes.
That's
Yes,
beautiful.
that's beautiful.
So those kind of friendships can be very instrumental in bringing the positive attributes, right, of peer pressure. You can be pressured into doing something that's good, right? Sometimes your sister that backslides, right? And you have the others who are within the church. So they can, you know, the visitations, the prayers, that is beautiful pressures. Like coming saying, hey, today we just came to check up on you, how are you doing, right?
You know?
And also even when you're in church, holding each other accountable, right? A true friendship, Proverbs says, true friendship tells the truth.
Oh, yes, that's
Right,
true.
so you start gently because this is true friendship. I need to tell you the truth that the road that you're going, these are the end results. Remember our teachings from church. You know,
The friendship is not just when there's a problem. The friendship must be there even when there's nothing happening, so that we keep each other in check.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I think that's important to note that it's important to also identify the kind of friendships that you want to have.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
are these people adding value or not? You understand? Are we going somewhere with this friendship? You know, am I benefiting? Is this profitable for ministry? You know, is this friendship profitable for ministry? So I think we need to have those checks with friendships. I like that about friendship, because I really cherish friendships. So now we have friendships, and you've also spoken about one of the beautiful relationships that we've seen in the Bible, but we also have that of mentorship. You know, to some extent it's not just peer to peer. You know, it's us, me and you, we are friends, you know, but we also have people in our community, people who are you know, older, right? Yeah, I don't know if you have something to say about that. Some people who are older, you know, our leaders and people who have a great influence in our lives.
Absolutely. Back to the Bible again, Naomi and Ruth.
Yep.
It's beautiful because you see how the relationship was. Naomi was guiding Ruth.
You know?
You know, to find the Boaz. Do 1, 2, 3. This is how you should do, right? So there's also positive in listening to our mothers. They know. Sometimes you think they don't understand 1, 2, 3.
They've been there before.
David Solomon said, "There's nothing new under the sun." You know, so they might be a generational gap, right? But they've been there to listen to them for their guidance. You know, I mean, look at Ruth. At the end of the day, after he says, "Okay, this is how you're gonna sleep by the feet of Boaz," strategic.
Girl with a plan.
So they do have plans. They do have that plan that we can look at and say, actually, this is actually positive. This can contribute to my life, right? And all the likes. Yes, yeah.
The leaders in our church, leaders in our church, you know, we should take advantage of the ministry leaders in our church. You know, when we have young women ministries in our church, it's such a powerful ministry, and we need to be able to, you know, reach out. We need to be able to also just, you know, expose yourself and just open up when you see it as a safe space. You know, we have pastors for that. We have counseling for that. There's so many areas of mentorship. There's so many opportunities and so many resources that we can take advantage of in our community. And I really appreciate it. So when we talk about the healthy peer pressure, you know, how can we identify it?
I think, you know, the beautiful thing when the church context, we are taught the principles.
Yeah.
What leads us is the Bible, right? The Bible has principles.
Yep.
So you test it, right? Sometimes I think we're into these friendships. I don't know what it is, but you see that it's not working.
No matter what.
No matter what, this person, everything that they do is against the values that we hold, right? But you continue going this, you're prolonging the friendship and everything. So what I will say basically is look at the principles.
Yeah.
Look at the principles. Are they where they're leading you, where they're taking you, or where actually, even the advice, and honest advice is very,
It's
you might not
important.
like it right now.
It's important.
You might not like it right, but in hindsight, you'll say, actually, it's true. So you look at all those. Does this friend check me when I'm actually out of the way and stuff like that? But approach as well, right? It's very, very key. A soft answer turns away wrath and anger and all those things. So how you also navigate and approach it is very, very important.
Also, when I talk about identifying, it's not just also identifying, but how, of course, how we can see that this is good, this is healthy, this is good pressure. It's the encouragement. Encouraging.
Yes.
There's so many examples.
Yes.
So many places. We spoke about education earlier. We talked about profession. We talked about social media. We can talk about cheering our friends, My friend, let's talk about where you're going with your education. You are unhappy with where you are at work. Perhaps let's sit down and talk about how you can improve your attitude, how you can improve your attitude so you're not a bad doctor at work. So that you're not a bad employee, you're not a bad employer, you're not a bad steward, So there's that. Let's talk about some of those examples, because someone is watching, because we're always concerned about the young person on the show, the young woman. She's wondering, we don't want to be abstract. We want them to be able to see it. We might not say all the examples, but just those small examples, like we said, it's cheering. We want to be cheered on. We want people who are there on your corner. We want someone who says, my friend, I don't understand what you posted on social media.
Explain it to me. Well, let me look at your perspective. Let me understand why.
Hey.
What's that? I think the perfect example is always Jesus when you talk about being cheerful, how He's the perfect model, right? Even, the disciples were not perfect, even during His walking with them, but He still walked with them and being patient with them.
Yeah.
So I think He's the perfect picture, our true pattern on how we should deal with each other, right?
Yeah.
And I think prayer also. Now this is a friend to a friend, right? I remember when Jesus was into Peter, very close, he understood Peter's personality, and that goes also understanding each other's personalities, right?
Yeah.
But Peter, I know what's the spirit behind that. It's not you, but I understand what's moving, the power, the power of darkness, the power of principle behind that. So at the end of the day, it's these two forces, the battle of good and evil. So when it's ministering to a friend, right? You come there ministering, at the end of the day, this is Amo, beautiful, it's my friend. But behind there's a force that's trying to overpower her. So that's why it's important also when you look at the principles, when you're also guiding and giving out, Jesus illustrates the true pattern on how we can go about in all our relationships.
He's ultimately the perfect example. He's ultimately the perfect example. I'd like for you at this point to speak to her. She's watching this now. We don't know where she is. We don't know what her life is. We don't know if she stepped back. We don't know if she's suffering in the community, or we don't know. She doesn't know how to identify. How to identify or where she's going and how to see the problem as she goes on with her life. You understand? I would like for you to take this opportunity, Ona. I know you do this so well. Just speak to the sister. Just help her to rise. Help her to overcome peer pressure.
I think I'll speak more in relation to how I overcome peer pressure.
Right? Yes. Perfect.
the feelings, you need to be honest with yourself, right? So when you're in social media and you look at that Instagram, what feelings does it bring, right? Is it jealousy? All the ones that are not according to the Christian belief. I journal a lot, right? I think journaling has helped in terms of, okay, dear God, I am feeling this way. I don't know what's my identity. Who am I in you, right? Help me find my path back, right? And it's a constant thing. It's not a one day off where you journal and then thereafter you leave it. So it's a constant battle as I go back there where I'm like, okay, fine, you journal. This is pressurizing me right now to be unethical, but I cannot be unethical right now, you know. So it's more of when you have that close relationship, that's how to overcome the peer pressures. I know it's usually easy when, you know, said than done, but I promise you when you always check out, okay, but the Holy Spirit also gets to speak and you need to listen, right? Because it's always a battle. So I journal, you know, I journal at the end of the night, every night I write down, how did I feel today?
Yeah.
Did I like how I spoke to the, no, I didn't like that. Did I like, because sometimes when you're in friends, you can feel like, okay, I need to fit in, right? The language that you speak, when you're alone and you're alone, no, that's not the language that I should be speaking. You journal that, help me tomorrow. So you're aware. Awareness brings these pressures, right? But the minute you're not, you just go, you're not finding your identity and you're not questioning and all these things, that's where you can lose your footing, you know. So as a young sister who's there, take time, step back. Don't just go with the flow, the likes and everything, wake up. It must be in line with the biblical values that you have been taught, right? So that's the first one, the journaling. And find somebody you can confide in. Somebody like what you said, a mentor, right? A mentor. And also, you know, we might think this pressure is something like, but also go for counseling. You know, counseling also helps because they are taught to unpack why do you feel this certain way. Why certain things is also underlying because of our childhood upbringing, right? You were maybe a people pleaser, so sometimes to get out of this peer pressures, it won't be as easy as we might think. So all those avenues, see, it's all what I do. I have a counselor who will tell me the truth. But why do you do certain things? He helps you actually, then you go back and journal and be honest to yourself.
Thank you for that. You know, we're running a race that does not involve God, unfortunately, and it's important for ourselves to find a God personally and for ourselves. Yes, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for using God. I mean, for allowing God to use you in such a mighty way, Ona. Yes, God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode as we unpacked negative peer pressure. We also spoke about healthy peer pressures and how to identify it. This is Healer Sister, and until we see you again next time, bye-bye.